Hi and welcome everyone to the Connected Inc. Panel, the Hidden Education Champions. My name is Peter Bacher. I'm Director of Business Development in the Wacom Inc. division, based out of New Jersey in the US. And I will be the host of the session today. Wacom partnered last year with some amazing software companies in the digital education space. So here are our hidden education champions, namely Colorboard, Explain Everything, Pear Deck, Kami, and Limnu. And today we could win representatives of each of the companies for this panel. So I'm happy to have such a great lineup of speakers who joined me from across the globe, 4 different time zones, early and late in the evening, midday. So without further ado, I'll let you introduce yourself to the audience.
Yes, hello. Thank you for having me here. I'm Kate Beal, and I'm the VP of Marketing for GoGuardian and was part of the original leadership team for Pear Deck, and so still oversee that product and brand.
Hi, I'm Jenny Rice. I'm co-founder of Limnu as well as head of product. Thanks for having me.
Hi, I'm Bob, one of the co-founders at Kami down here in New Zealand.
Hello, it's great to be here. My name's Michael Gurek from Colorboard. I'm one of the co-founders and a big fan of Digital Inc. So I'm very happy to be here tonight.
Oh, hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be on this panel with all of you. I'm Rashawn Richards, CEO and co-founder of Explain Everything.
Great. Thank you all for being here today. We've all been quite busy in the last 18 months, especially in the field of digital education. So it has seen a massive change from being basically a nice to have in the education space to a must in a matter of days. And we have seen a rapid adoption of hardware sales, as well as then software adoption to enable this kind of new setups, new use cases. Everybody was trialing different setups that fit their workflow the best. What can you say about this experience? What shaped it the most in the last like 18 months?
It's hard to put into words, I think, what the last months have been like as a leader of an ed tech company. But to my colleagues here, I think we're all probably just coming out of what is a once in a lifetime experience of a market shift. I mean, it was just an incredible thing to witness how the demand for our tools suddenly skyrocketed overnight. As we saw as a North American based company, our company had to quickly switch from the plans that we had for 2020 to really pulling back and just moving into an all hands on deck customer support mode, and really thinking about what are the aspects of our tools and our product roadmap that could potentially really support educators during this critical time of need and create that continuity for the relationships between educators and students. That was particularly important for our tool. So it's been incredible to see the growth over the last 18 months.
Well, we saw a lot of growth, like many of us did, which was both exciting and a little scary. Prior to the pandemic, most of the educators who were using our tool were really doing one-on-one education with students, and it switched to being used for classrooms. And that taught us a lot about how to improve the tool. And we did make significant changes to support larger classroom sizes. And we saw some really exciting things happen on our tool and new customers come on board that we probably would not have seen prior to the pandemic. So we have learned a lot and expanded our tool, and now we're on a better, we have a better product to support educators in the future.
Yeah, I guess the most memorable moment for me was right at the beginning when I happened to be on support one night, and a message came from a teacher in Hong Kong that was just saying, hey, I've used your product for the last 2 or 3 years, but I need to get my whole school on it by Monday because all the schools here in Hong Kong, across China, are shut down from Monday. And I can remember replying to him, sure, I can get that fired up for you, but what do you mean the schools are closing down? And that started, the conversation about the pandemic. That was the first conversation I'd had with anybody that it was starting to get real. And we, like everybody did, we just, hey, yeah, this is a crisis. Let's just switch it on for free, product on for free for anybody who needs it, whose school's been shut down. And I think all my co-panelists here would agree. That's what everybody independently just decided right away at that time. It was, hey, we've got something that can help people. There's a global crisis going on here. And really for the next 9 to 10 months, that's the mode the whole business was in. Everybody was customer support and everybody was just helping while we tried to just stay alive and drink from this fire hose. Initially it was just Hong Kong, China, make the product free where this crisis is. And that initial discussion was it's likely to last for 6 weeks, could be 2 months. But once you're in it, then Europe and then the US, and then it's totally global. And of course, it wasn't 6 weeks or 2 months. So just surviving when the costs of the business was skyrocketing with the number of users and the cloud hosting costs and the more intense use of video and these kind of features was quite a dramatic journey. But in the end, the schools did start buying long-term licenses instead of just having their free license extended month on month. And they just wanted the security and certainty of having long-term licenses. Money started coming in. So we actually finished the year. The Nikkei had us in the top 20 fastest growing businesses in Asia Pacific. Quite a roller coaster ride.
I believe it was, yeah. Rishan, on your side, so we talked about the like your distributed team. How did you experience this kind of growth across the globe with your distributed team in terms of hiring and aligning with your teammates and so on?
Yeah, I think all of our organizations have felt and continue to feel the human management internally. For the team members who we onboarded while we were at a full, remote, like officially lockdown situation, it requires extra care and attention because you can't fake being next to one another or just, having somebody get a sense of the feel of the carpet or the sense of the room and space. Yet whenever you hire somebody, you want them to be kind of forever team members. And so that's definitely kind of it was very new territory for us. A lot of our technical team really enjoyed the deep work they were able to do when working remotely, but also recognized there were times that they needed to get back together and do the things that can only be done kind of sitting in the same room or at least face to face with another colleague. So, one of the things that I try to do as an organizational leader is always create that optionality of like just having a conversation just to say hello, because normally all of those in between moments that I think are so important to company culture, that you do have to start creating some structure so at least it's attended to. And even if not everybody takes you up on it, I know that people appreciate that space is created.
And Michael, your company is also it's digital education, but also more on the like corporate side. So what changed in this period in terms of like strategy and kind of requirements from your customers?
So for us, it was a very interesting time. We decided 2019 in the summer, where nobody was aware about this pandemic, to basically relaunch our product. And our launch date was 1st of May, 2020. During April, when everything here closed in Switzerland, I had people asking me, hey, you showed us the design, you showed us the product, where is it? Can we already test it? When can we start? So we had this high demand. And then when we launched the product, of course, not everything was perfect yet. So we had a lot of requests for features, for optimization, and so on. So during this time, we basically shifted our strategy to a completely user-centric development. And what's a second aspect was very important for us, that we provide a solution that is compliant with the regulations. So here in Central Europe, there is this GDPR regulation, for example, and we needed to make sure that also for the education area, Colaboard is a GDPR compliant. So the people are not afraid if they upload personal data or if there is the data from their children. So as we started also to allow people not just to upload images, but also videos, because videos is so much used by also the younger generation, this basically exploded our cloud storage. And for the on-prem customers, it's difficult to say how much they use on average, but our cloud costs, I think this is similar to what Bob experienced, this basically skyrocket. Yeah.
From a user perspective, obviously you have certain use cases within your application that they're designed for. Was there in any of you some surprise usages of like the actual product that it wasn't designed for?
Well, I think one use case, maybe it's not that we didn't anticipate it, but rather we wouldn't necessarily support it because it's not ideal. And I think for anyone with children know that the hybrid teaching, so many people, not right as the pandemic hit, but at least in the US and other areas where the school year starts, late summer, early fall, that as there was this semi-return back to, school happening on site, there was still this need to manage the split audience, some in person and some online. And so seeing kind of the innovativeness that folks found ways to like use our whiteboard to actually simultaneously serve those audiences, I think was both remarkable and, disappointing, because we wish that wasn't the case that folks were being asked to teach under.
The other feature, I think, not an unintended feature, but I'm sure the others also noticed that particularly any video annotation, kind of video engagement was just far more intensely used last year than previously. It was kind of a sparse use feature previous to 2020, I think, but teachers discovered that when issuing out assignments or homework to the students, being just able to embed videos just to either explain that they can't do face-to-face, just to explain what the assignment goals are, just embedding that so the student can actually watch how the teacher solved the worked example and then go on and do the rest of the work.
We definitely agree with that. We saw a lot of that, of an increased use of video. We also accelerated the release of 2 features that I think were really helpful to educators during this time. One, which was an add audio feature that allowed just an audio clip to be added to the Pear Decks, which was very helpful for kind of that direct instruction that you weren't able to maybe deliver at scale when you had so many students, particularly in those hybrid settings. The other was a co-teaching feature. So we recognized with teachers not able to be in the same classroom, or perhaps the para-professionals and educators, they weren't going to be in a classroom together, they're working from their homes. We needed to release that co-teaching feature.
Some of the students came up with some interesting ways of using our tools that the teachers weren't happy about. So we built our tool to be as frictionless as possible, so that anybody can collaborate and stuff. So we actually, saw some of that Zoom bombing on LimNu and had to apply more permissions for teachers to control what their students could do. So it's sort of the opposite there. That was a learning.
Exactly, yeah. We have seen also massive growth in the adoption in the education space. Hence, we partnered with you also. A fundamental, common feature in your applications is the usage of digital pen and ink. How did the adoption of digital pen and ink accelerate over that time?
We saw it both from the perspective of educators as they were preparing their lessons. It sort of unlocks a lot of creative opportunities when you think about, slide design, illustrations, images that can be added. But also, I think within our product, one of the response types that is most heavily used by educators to connect with students of all grade levels and really different abilities would be the drawing response type. It's probably the response type that I personally use in Pear Decks too, because even adults really enjoy this opportunity to express themselves creatively and visually. It adds such dimension when you think about responses with text or responses with numbers or multiple choice, you don't get personality, but you kind of put that pen in someone's hand, you offer the opportunity to express themselves visually, it really can bring a personality to life. So I think we saw a lot of reliance on that for creative expression, and also social emotional check-ins with students. It was a great way to, particularly for younger students, to express how are you feeling.
Jenny, I was really impressed with kind of your fluidness, so the integration of the digital ink. How was your kind of view on the adoption of the digital ink and the tools within your application?
Yeah, so we built Limnu to look and feel like a real whiteboard, down to our signature marker that actually looks like, somebody said, it looks like the whiteboard marker that's almost about to run out of ink. And it seems silly why we have that, but it really brings focus to what people are, the idea that they're trying to express, rather than making it the most beautiful drawing. And that's important, I really think, in when people are using digital ink to try to explain concepts and teach others, that people are focused on the idea they're conveying rather than someone trying to figure out the tool and what to do. So we wanted Limnu to be as simple as walking up to a whiteboard and drawing. We actually haven't really changed much about our digital ink. Most of the feedback we have received has been, and the improvements have been, around other collaborative tools. I think people find that the basic drawing on Limnu is easy, and they can really, especially for students, they just get it and can start drawing and understand it.
Rashan, in terms of your digital ink implementation, I've talked to your CTO a couple of times during last year, and you're a truly like cross-platform application, right? And you have the ink everywhere implemented. So what was the biggest challenge for you having this kind of consistency across the different operating systems with the digital?
Well, there's all kinds of technical challenges by having the, a great inking algorithm and flow and all of that when you're designing across multiple platforms and multiple native operating systems and a whole variety of hardware. So I think anybody who's tried to do any kind of elegant whiteboarding just using a mouse or a trackpad, it's a pretty clumsy and almost unsatisfying experience. And you see adults shy away from it because in a setting like this, you don't want to have this very kind of scratchy looking trackpad inking. And then other times, whenever you're in a kind of a digitally mediated setting, it almost infers that if I'm sharing my screen or sharing something digitally, it's very prepared, right? It's very polished, and it's a presentation as opposed to just a visual space. And then I think from a product standpoint, because we saw a lot of folks coming into the web, we really thought about like, all right, with your dominant hand, you might be drawing and inking. And then with your non-dominant hand, how can you use keyboard shortcuts to quickly toggle between those tools and in between actions? So that was an area of the product that we definitely gave renewed attention to during this time.
And Michael, in terms of your, so you launched just right into the pandemic, the new service. So what have you experienced in kind of the last 18 months in terms of changes to your digital ink and the features that come with them?
When I did one of my first demos, I draw something like a treasure map, and I showed this to a group of teachers, and then I met them 6 months later, and I checked what they did for their students, and they all took this concept of this treasure map and reused this in their online lessons. And you can imagine this like that. Every island on this map was basically a lesson. And we have a different set of styles. So there is a brush, there is a normal pen, and so on. And we have seen that some of them were not working, let's say, perfect at the beginning. So we needed really to go into the algorithm, to do some deep math stuff to optimize that, so that the ink experience in the web application become better and smoother. So in this case, we did a lot of things here. And what's also something I really like myself, I'm really not a good drawer, but sometimes I invest time to make something beautiful. and then I love copy paste. So this is something I really do. And because I was a big fan of that, we also took this into our template library.
Bob, in terms of your use case is kind of the fundament of education, right? How have you seen the digital ink being evolved over time and being used in your application?
Whatever you open in Cami or an image, it becomes your canvas. And for it to be a canvas for expression, that's where the digital ink comes in. Taking some document and actually expressing what you feel about what's written or depicted there. That's where I think the digital ink really comes in. That comes in the workplace. I see it in the teamwork across our team working collaboratively, but the exact same thing is essential in classrooms as well.
Where do you see your role in kind of driving forward this kind of digital education and in this kind of remote hybrid world?
Certainly, I think we think flexible learning tools are here to stay. So, wonderful programs like Explain Everything in Cami and Pear Deck, we hope are always going to be part of kind of an educator's tool set. I think also efficacy is going to be the big question and the name of the game as far as which of our tools are going to really find a place permanently in kind of the pantheon of must-haves for educators, because there's certainly going to be more choice, right? We see a lot of competition in the market. We see a lot of new players and certainly expanded resources of our colleagues and competitors have across. So I think it's just going to sort of drive us all towards excellence. My hope is that, what we see as we go is just increase resources, increase focus on efficacy, and that drive to excellence.
I think Kate said it really well in terms of, and covered a lot of it for probably all of us. One thing where we set ourselves apart from some other tools are we have a very flexible API that allows us to be integrated into other platforms. So that actually has been a big focus of ours in the past couple of months, and enhancing our API so that it's meets these customers' needs and then their end customer needs for their teachers and schools, etc. It's been really nice partnering with these other companies and being able to provide them whiteboarding needs that they so they don't have to build it themselves.
Great. Michael, on your side, so the corporate side, what do you see like the development after Corona?
So I think for everybody it's clear, hybrid is a new way of working. And while during the pandemic, everybody jumped on using a lot of different tools, they are now starting to be real projects. So the companies really think about, okay, where to go. Also the universities, it's not just everybody is allowed to use any tool. So we want to have one tool, we want to go with one strategy. And this is what we see here. And what's also something that is going to be more important is that people are much more aware about where are their data. And this is why from our side, we're always looking about new opportunities where to host our solution. And we're looking forward now to launch a new hosting where we host data in Germany, somehow in the Fort Knox for data here in Europe. And this is how we see that. So hybrid is here to stay in education, but also in the business.
So I think what's interesting is like pre-pandemic for a company like ours that, there was two types of schools or institutions that we could categorize under that. Those who already had some sort of digital transformation or digital strategy. They've already invested in the hardware for their students. They're already doing the professional development. And then those who are not quite there yet. And so for us, we knew that like, hey, for schools that already had this in motion, like they've already figured out their why and they're just trying to find the best how. Whereas other category of schools, it's like, they haven't even got the context for why a tool like ours would be helpful in the long run. So you're first almost doing just general education about like, what is possible. The variety of needs and ways that people can access education are going to be so disrupted and so distributed that you really need thoughtful solutions, thoughtful, program design in order to serve, young people best. And now we can really focus on like us hopefully providing the best quality we can, and then trusting and hoping to do what we can, that the schools are also asking those same questions. I think those who are really focusing on quality and, as Kate said, efficacy, those organizations, those services are going to be just fine.
Actually, at Cami, we've decided to put the user first. So in our business, we are trying to support those 30 million users, whether they're paying or not. We have a free basic version as well as the premium paid version of the product. So we talk to, and more specifically, we listen a lot to teachers and what they are telling us, because teachers are often being told what the future is, what the future holds, what's the best way of learning. But if you listen to them, the teachers know, and what they're crying out for is the resources to be able to do what they know works for their students. I'll be bold and make a prediction beyond the next few months. I'll make a prediction for the next 10 years. Firstly, university education. So, Cami's used university as well as school, but university education, I'm going to say, is going to face a massive disruption in the next 10 years through online learning and technology. Mm-hmm. But at school, K through 12, yes, we're seeing hybrid learning. We're seeing school districts creating a virtual school to put students in who maybe aren't going back to school yet or don't ever want to go back to school. But I'm a big fan of the classroom. And I think the classroom learning is always going to be there. The classroom is going to be the place, not just for imparting knowledge, but because that's where students learn teamwork, collaboration, leadership, conflict resolution, all of those social skills that make humankind what we are and help us, the next generation, to build a better world. That has to happen in a classroom. Like everyone said, we're trying to give those teachers tools that they can use to make that a better place for all students, not just the ones with technology. But I would add that this is a global phenomenon. It's not just in the US where it's happening. We're seeing it right across the world at different stages of development, but everybody realizes it's a digital century. We need to prepare the next generation for a digital life and a lifetime of learning. And that's what I think everybody on this call is really passionate about doing.
Absolutely. Thanks for the words. Yeah. That brings me to one last question as well. In terms of artificial intelligence, have you thought about how this could improve the lives, improve teaching experience?
Yes, we did. So basically, we let's say looked at two things. So we tried to use AI also to improve the whole link experience. So there are these, let's say, simple things that the circle becomes a nicer circle, or the triangle becomes a nicer triangle. But we see there is technology available that when you draw a house, then you get a real house as an icon proposed, basically. So it's a lot of this shape and ink recognition, which could be very useful. And then usually these boards are very big. So people put thousands of ideas on that. So we have a lot of data. Mm-hmm. And the big challenge is how and if we should really access this data, and are we allowed to. So when we talk about data security and AI, this is somehow conflicting itself a little bit, because to really train an AI, you need a lot of data. And with the, let's say, agreements we have with our customers, we usually can't do that. But it would be very cool to, let's say, take all the ideas you have on the board and then propose you a new one with an AI. So let's see where this is heading to.
We like to think more on, what are these like kind of repeatable and like kind of routine busy tasks where we can look at making things faster. So Michael said about intelligent search, like better automated indexing so that people can find things more quickly.
We actually already have a patented audio processing tool, which is more for helping people join meetings faster. And we're planning to implement that onto our platform in the future. And it can also help with hybrid classroom or meetings as well in terms of connecting devices and ensuring folks are muted, etc., if they're in too close proximity.
I know it can be quite a long process creating lesson sessions that are really capturing the audience as well. So did you think about any things to make this easier for your educators?
The Pear Deck mission and vision was people living reasoned lives of honesty and empathy. And so I think very much an interesting question. There's so much power that is available with maybe the ethical deployment of AI and ML, but this is a technology that's very much in its infancy. I think we recognize that it is powerful, but with that comes the responsibility to understand it and sort of deal thoughtfully with it before you send it into our classroom.
Thank you very much for your participation in the talk. It was really great talking to you. Lots of insights. Hopefully we can achieve together some good digital transformation in the industry. So I say thank you to you and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thanks,
you.
Peter.